Rock and roll it. All right. So it's apparently is streaming live right now.
It says
from the Sunshine State to the Golden Gate, anywhere you wanna roll out of. But I got another idea, we could kick it right here. Ain't even gotta load that truck, we can make this hometown home. Keep our roots where they've always grown. Find a fixer up or down that road. From the Church of Christ where you got baptized, we can...
What's up, guys? It's Paul here with Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment, and our Road to Real Estate series has begun. And one of the things I want to talk about is not just coming off of the road and what it's like to be out there and how do you buy a home and all of that good stuff, but we're talking about wellness today with one of my favorite people and talking about how you got to get yourself in shape before you can even get your house in shape with Dr. Vivek Gupta. And I want to bring him on right now with Mindful Wellness. How you doing?
Hey, Paul, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. One of the stories, that I love to share about when I'm off the road from traveling is like, so I officially got off the road on being off after being on a bus for like 10 years. Um, back a few months ago. And one of the things that was so cool is I met you almost right when that happened.
Wow,
And we were
in
just talking
Vegas.
about all kinds of different things. We were really talking about, you were there for a real estate thing. I was there for a
Yeah.
real estate thing. And it's like we ended up not talking about real estate. We ended up talking about wellness, not only of the body, but of the mind. And I think one of the things that I was talking to you about is like, I need to get me back. I need to get
Yeah.
my health back, my wellness back, and all of those things, both mentally and physically, and
Yeah.
and some of the challenges and hurdles that 10 years of living in a little tube going down the road or in the sky, we've done them all. Some of the things that happen with that is just your body takes the sacrifice
Yes.
and it harbors a lot of stuff. You're in
Yeah.
different environments every day when you're on the road. When you're in a bus, you're confined with 10, 12,
Yes.
13 other people depending on what things are like. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then you may or may not get good sleep depending on how rough
Yeah.
that ride is or how rough a night you had the night before. So but but yet we still want to be able to enjoy our life on the road.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many
100%.
myths behind,
Yes.
you can't do this, you can't do that, or you have to do this and you have to do that.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that's the physical side of it and the confusion that comes along. But then
Yeah.
we also have that um mental part of like, I want to have fun with this. I don't want to be told
Yeah.
no. It's
Yeah.
such
Yeah.
a critical industry where you're always being
Yes.
criticized, and chalked up against this person. And this person did
Yes.
that and whatever. So just all those elements coming together. So when I met you and you told me that your business is named mindful wellness, it took the two
Yeah.
things, that were really some of the most challenging things for me off stage
Yes.
while on the road, and just
Yeah.
wanted to get you to talk about that a little bit with us.
Yeah, I love that opening. I think it's really important to understand. I'm just trying to say this now. Wellness does not have to be annoying, right? Like too often, I think the conception is yoga retreats and those B12 shots and buckwheat shots of Jamba Juice or something like that. But in reality,
We've definitely
wellness,
gotten those. We stop at
yeah,
airports and go, yeah,
yeah,
if I
exactly.
just get that
But it's
Jamba Juice right there, that'll take care of my whole day, right?
exactly, right? But like that perfectionism, I think, is really, really destructive. And I love how you said all of the things, right? Like we have to do this or we can't do this. And it's always about that, right? Not like how we approach it is instead the first step, maybe a little bit counterintuitive. It's actually practicing a lot of grace and compassion for yourselves and looking at our lives and figuring out the true causes and conditions of our suffering and starting from that place, right? And that makes it because frankly, when you feel like shit, basically, you just want to eat more, drink more, do more, and it just
We call it
makes it harder and harder.
self-medicating on the road. Yes.
Exactly. And it's self-medicating escape from suffering, right? That's just being a human, or like your phones or everything, right? And especially in your industry or your prior industry, that's a huge thing, right? Because you're, as you said, stressed, traveling, not your food environment is constantly changing. You're under all of these demands. You're maybe away from your loved ones often, and you just don't have that support and structure. And that makes it even more that all these things that are around us, we just press the red button and get the dopamine hit from all of them.
And I
So,
think part of it is also, we don't when you're on the road, it's very tough to create habits that are good habits. You
yeah,
basically go with what that day gives you. Whatever
yeah,
that catering situation looks like, whatever that
yes,
many hours on the bus looks like. Um,
yeah,
Even the environment backstage, you may be confined to, it's 100 degrees out and you've got this little box over here as a green room and then the bus over here and no real place in between. So we
right,
chalk it up to, well, can't really do much about it today, so I'll just sit back and, have a
yeah,
few, and then I'll
of
try and do
course.
better tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we have to take all of that into consideration, and instead of bullying or like making just people feel bad about themselves about it, like how can you do this? It's like instead, okay, these are all the obstacles, but what do we have? What are the few things we can do, right? Because often we think we got to change, we have to be a completely different person to do this, but in reality it just takes like maybe 1 to 5% optimization of certain things that can be such virtuous habits, right? Like there's a book called Atomic Habits that talks about this. There's a few things that could build on everything else and create this wellness even in our lives while still enjoying, while still like living and the life that we want to, and getting value and meaning from music, or if that's your industry or whatever.
Well, and I think that that was one of the things when you first talked to me. It wasn't like prescribing a plan, prescribing this, doing this, and that.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was
like
like,
no cookie cutter
let's,
approach.
yeah, it was like, let's talk about you. And you really
Yes.
wanted to know me, the individual, what, not only what made me tick,
Yeah.
but also what was, any given day like, and the things that I was dealing with. And for me, meeting you coming off the road kind of was, all right, I'm going to have now new, different windows of times, new
Yes.
controls, and
Yeah.
stepping into new parts of life
Yeah,
that I
you
hadn't
were in a
really ever.
transition phase.
Yeah, exactly. So, when someone reaches some of those challenges, I think it's important, to understand that each person's going to have their unique thing, and that's something
Yeah.
that you focus on, right?
Yeah, and I think I described, so I'm an internal medicine physician. I initially started my career as a hospital doctor, and I was an admin. I was managing a PCP clinic, PT clinic, skilled care nursing facilities. But I started this practice a few years ago, first focusing on weight, and now more weight, substance abuse, and sleep, stress, and just general wellness. But really, I think this was what I describe this as practicing true medicine, because often, unfortunately, because of the pressures of the insurance system and all that, you go see a doctor and it's like you see them for 15 minutes and they don't have the time to do this thing. And that is such a gap, because like what people are actually doing, what people are actually dealing with day to day, minute to minute, really is the most important thing about people's health. And unfortunately, in medicine, we've moved away from even just gathering that information to be able to act on it.
Yeah, and I think, there's some good examples. I'll just cut to over to this real quick, that like
Yeah.
when we're looking at headlines that say, rock stars, yada yada yada, cleaning up everybody from DJ Khaled to,
Yeah.
Ed Sheeran losing 50 pounds from, saying he cut back on
Awesome.
the alcohol, started exercising and
Yeah.
shed 50 pounds. And then of course us in the country music
Yeah.
industry, Tim McGraw is one of those guys we look up to, and of course he says contributes, dropping alcohol, truck stop foods,
Yeah.
not working out, and all that sort of stuff. He changed a lot, and but now, I've had the opportunity to be on tour with Tim before, and it was
That's awesome.
amazing to see
Yeah.
that. I'll never forget our first day that
Yeah.
we got out on the road with Tim, and we're showing up with our trailer and bus, and
Yeah.
he has one tractor trailer that just like opens up and a gym just explodes out of the back of it. He's got
Awesome.
he's got a an outdoor gym and an indoor gym that come from this truck, and then
So
but he
cool.
doesn't even start out with that stuff. He starts out with fuel first, and
Yeah.
he knows how important his diet is, and they'll run up and down. One of the things he loves to do first
Yeah.
is also get out, and he likes to put his foot on every step of every arena that he plays. And so that may take an hour one day, 2 hours the next day, who knows
Yeah.
what. And
Yeah.
he's just getting up, but then the next thing is his refueling process and what he eats, and of course
So
he has chef on staff. He has his
cool.
trainer on staff, and they're with him
Yeah.
all day. And he works out 2 hours a day, twice a day. So
That's
about
cool.
4 hours of exercise. Now, not everyone can do that,
Of course. Yeah.
and
I do want to say though that like that still it's the same principles, right? You got to make it work in your life, right? Obviously
right,
people have different amount of resources and everything, but even like we have patients perhaps that are in an office setting, and we encourage them, can you talk to the person who makes the decision with the snacks, right? Who's the one
right,
who decides to order? Can we move those things, right? We still can, in our individual circumstances often, and sometimes not, but sometimes, right, we do have more power because our brain works spatially like this. If something's there, we're going to be more likely to eat it. But even in that case you mentioned, right, he made it work in his life. He had he has a gym there coming with him. He has a trainer, a chef. Again, of course, not a lot of us don't have that, but whatever, we can do it within our constructs, right? Like one of our main things is, instead of like, we don't have to cook. You don't have to cook. We can buy more pre-made meals. Every grocery store sells a shit ton of pre-made meals now, right?
well, it was
So
funny
like,
while you were saying that. It was funny. DJ Khaled, he started out
yeah,
partnering with Weight Watchers, right? And
interesting.
I don't know if
I didn't
that
even know
really
that.
worked so well, even though
Yeah,
it says he lost 43 pounds, but he also changed some certain things, cut back on white rice, using stevia instead of sugar, and
love it.
eating more fish and
Yeah,
salads,
yeah,
and I think what some of the common ties, and Kenny Chesney being another one, you know, doubles up on vegetables, eats more protein, no
yeah,
carbs or rice pasta after
yeah.
5 p.m. What do you think about all these different techniques that are being thrown out for these celebrities that have everyone on payroll to make sure that
Yeah,
they're doing this as well
which
as
is
they can?
awesome. which is you should be. If I was a celebrity, I'd be doing that too.
Right?
I think that like the truth of the matter scientifically, there is no right answer. Everything works for you. The only thing that works is what works for you. That's what I meant to say, right? So like these techniques help them, right? So more power to them, right? Like if they were my patient, I'd be talking to them, say, okay, is this sustainable? That's the key word, right?
Right.
Like, is it something you're having to make yourself do all the time, or is it doable? And if it's doable, just keep doing it, right? That's the only thing. But I think I do want to say, like, again, at the beginning, at the top, you mentioned, right? I think the pitfall is everyone thinks they have to do these certain things, and that just becomes so demotivating when it doesn't vibe with our own life, with our own time, energy, and desire. So it's just really important. Whatever we do has to be from that place of self compassion. And all that means pragmatically, it again, it vibes with your time, energy, and desire.
Talk to me about that self-compassion, because I think that is the one thing that every artist on that list that I was just
Yes,
floating through, and artists that I've worked with and know
of
and
course.
have met, is they're it's that, instance of, okay, if I start, how am I going to stick with it? And they
Yes.
almost approach, even when they're excited to get on a new plan or to start a
Yeah.
new plan, it almost starts with that, I don't know if I'm going to
Yeah.
stick with
I,
it,
yes.
opportunity.
And that's normal
I
human.
want
Yeah.
quick
That's like our mind
results. I
works.
don't really want to change much. I really want you to just give me an injection and hope that it all works,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So talk about some of that.
Yeah, so I wonder, like, I think my central thesis, and we've talked about this before too, Paul, is that self compassion is not only some like thing, like a platitude. It's not something nice to say, but it's actually an operational way of how to approach our lives. Because we have our frontal lobe, which is like the front of our brain. That's the thing that humans evolved to make decisions, to plan, to execute things, right? And you can reduce it to a very simple model in that we make a goal. If we do it, if we achieve it, we're happy. If we don't do it, we feel sad, right? And so it's just very important the goals you make. And why I keep harping on self-compassion is self-compassion means looking at our lives and understanding, like, our time, energy, desire. Like a real world example is I have so many patients who are like, I need to wake up an hour earlier to like work out. And I say, okay, what do you do in the morning? They go, oh, I just like, I should be able to do it. All I have to do is like make all my kids lunches. I have to feed them breakfast. I have to answer like 5 emails, and then I have to commute to work or whatever. And in the night, I have to, clean the entire house. It's like, how are you going to wake up an hour early in this situation? Right. And I think you
There's
have
only
to
so
take
many
that
hours in the
data.
day.
Yeah, there's only a limited amount. And I don't mean for this to be like there's a limit in what we can do in our lives. It just means just looking at the data like realistically, right? And figuring out, and we have tons of productivity data now and everything that says like breaks, disconnecting, like allocating your time wisely. That's the way you achieve stuff in the world, right? And you have to take into account your energy, and you have to take all of these things. Otherwise, the thing you're trying to do will not work. That's the main
Right.
point, right? So all self-compassion means just looking at your life for what it is, and seeing it and go, okay, this is where it can work, this is where it can. And the other thing is, like, all of these people you mentioned, they didn't just go from 0 to 60. They didn't start that. They had to build up to that, right? It takes, and that's
Right.
another part of the whole thing. You start with, if you do want to wake up an hour earlier or whatever, you don't wake up an hour early. You maybe wake up 5 minutes earlier, 10 minutes earlier, 20 minutes early, right? And then you also have to see, can you sleep earlier? What's going on in that part? And look at all of the strands to make sure this can work.
So what's interesting about that too, if we're being really honest and digging into the artist musician
Yeah.
mindset of things, we're all a little crazy.
Yeah.
It takes that in order to be in that business. It also, man, we are like 100% nose diving into things. We don't do easy very well,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of all or nothing. It's a lot of go big or go home. A lot of those different mindsets come into play, and then a lot of self beating up, when we jump and fail
Yeah.
on things. I don't think that the majority of artists have people that are looking out for their mind and wellness from a
Yeah.
positive aspect in such a critical industry. you're only as good as so and so, or if you do this, this, and that, and
Yeah,
those
you wanna
sorts of
compare
things.
it
You've got management that's criticizing you, telling you how to do better. You've got
to
a label expecting more out of you than what you agreed to. You've got a crowd that needs to see you at your best because it may be the only time they've seen you this year, or at all, or ever. And so your
yeah.
new single's riding on it.
Yeah.
Um,
You got
and
that algorithms pushing out new people, like the
Right. Oh,
TikTok algorithms
100%.
just now.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're only as good as people you haven't even heard of yet before.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so there's so much that
Yeah, it's
goes
intense.
against self-appreciation and
Yes.
taking things in small steps and small adaptations to what
Yeah.
that happened, to how that happens. As I mentioned, me transitioning off of the road into doing real estate full time. Um, I didn't know what that life was going to be like. I'd never done that. There were simple things like taking my kids to the park on a Tuesday because there
Yeah.
was like, that's what you do. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. All right. And, uh, and so little parts of life come in and you try and learn how to adapt. So I couldn't even tell you what I was going to be adapting to because I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, it's a new
So
frontier.
yeah, in some ways it was harder for me to adapt mindful wellness to this new lifestyle than
Yeah.
it was to my old one that even though I didn't know what it was going to be every day, I had an
Yeah, yeah.
idea of what it was going to be.
Yeah, and you've been doing it for so long too, right? You were doing it for a
Right.
really long time.
Right. And I think sometimes when you do something for so long, especially life on the road,
Yes.
you don't realize the habits that you do
Oh,
create.
of course.
And I
Yeah.
think what one of the things that you helped me with was
Yeah.
changing out what those habits look, just a new perspective and
Yeah.
coming from the place of self appreciation and that it's
Yes.
okay to be kind to yourself. Sounds dumb.
Yeah.
I think, and I'll be even willing to say, I think guys, in
Yeah.
general, the male thing, like, I grew up with an older brother. Like the way that he showed me love was to put me in a headlock. That's how I knew my older brother loved me.
Yeah.
Because he's beating me up. Not to
Yeah.
come up and say, I'm so proud of what you've
Guys are
done.
not taught about
That ain't
emotions
happening.
very well. Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, that's what the music business is like. So,
Yeah, for sure.
um, so let's pretend we've got a new artist on here. Maybe there's a new
Yeah.
one watching or something like that, or an artist new as in meeting you, but maybe it's an
Yes.
existing artist who's like, okay. I think when I first talked to you, I said, in Nashville, we have this thing called LA Fit, Nashville Fat,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
let's say, gosh, I need this competitive edge. I really need to
Yeah.
drop 30 pounds or so. Everybody's going to say they only need to drop 15 until they start dropping 15. They go, oh, I guess it was really closer to 30 that I need to lose, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And if someone comes to you and spills that out, what's maybe the first 3 to 5 things that they can expect to hear from you if they say, hey, this is what I need, boom, fix me, doc.
So I think like definitely that, and to just kind of respond to also some of the other stuff you said, I think the truth of the matter is you can't take care of the world unless you take care of yourself. Right. And this isn't something, again, that's just nice to have, and especially in the music industry, based on how you're describing it, and really everyone, I would argue it's an absolute necessity. And it's not something necessarily people will give to you, not because of any malice towards anybody or that anyone has. It's just this is how humans work. I say you have to fight for your self care, right? And it's a necessary thing because we've seen, and the music industry is filled with examples of people who don't, right? With overdoses and all these other things that happen. Like, that's like basically as classic or it's part of rock and roll forever, unfortunately. And I think that, when a new artist would come to me, again, it would be the same thing, in a lot of ways that I do to a lot of people, is just get to know their life. And what I say is like feel someone's life and in annoyingly granular detail, and then figure out where are those 1, 2, 3% opportunities, right, to do something. Like if, someone's on the road a lot, it would be, who's controlling the food? Like, do you have power in that? And if you do, have them put out different things around you. Again, not to put more effort, but to make it easy, right? And I think
I
part
think
of the
that was
clinic,
a yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
I just saying, like when I say my clinic, when I called it mindful wellness, it's a little bit kind of I think different than perhaps people might think. It's not about necessarily being mindful in every moment, right? We have a lot of stimuli coming out at us. It's hard, right? Unless we practice a lot of mindfulness, it's just very difficult. But more often, it's being mindful of your world, right? And figuring out how to optimize your world to make this easy for you in every moment, right? And that's what the artist you mentioned did, and that's what we would do given everyone's individual, lives, resources, everything. But working, I have all types of patients. People are bus drivers, people are very, in tech and other industries, but we figure out where in people's lives, because there often is some room to do some movement in some ways.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that you got with me on was like, okay, even it's funny. I go from one career on the road to another one off the
Yeah,
road that really just puts
yeah,
me back on the road, but it's just in my own car instead of a tour bus, and I'm out,
yeah,
200 miles a day driving around.
yeah,
So I have a lot of a lot of the same issues, and
yeah,
I think one of the things, and this is going to sound so simple to the folks watching, but like you were like, hey, can you stop at a gas station? I was like, yeah, that's what we used to always do on the
yeah,
road, anyway, to refuel or whatever. And you're
yeah,
like, good, they have these things called protein shakes there. I'm like, yeah, I
yeah,
know, it's not maybe doesn't taste like the roller hot dog going around, but
yeah.
it it definitely
Fairlife
is
protein
better.
is pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah,
but like you started off with me meeting me where I was at, not
yes,
having this diet over here that you tried to fit me into.
yeah,
And I think
yes,
that did two things. A, we started with small adjustments, and
yeah,
then B, um, you were have it automatically gave me that you had an understanding of a practical understanding, a realistic understanding of, okay, this is what my life is like,
yes,
and then you gave me those small allowances of, hey, it's
yeah,
okay to do what you do, try
yes,
this, you know,
yeah,
and I feel like I start off with these small successes, and the interesting
yeah,
thing is then you start stacking those small
yes,
successes
yeah,
together and you get
yeah,
real success
and you
as
build
opposed
confidence.
to instant failures with most programs within the
Yes,
first week and quit, right?
yes,
So
100%.
that's one of the things that's helped me. I haven't even told everybody that, since I've been with you, I've dropped 20 pounds and gone
Yeah,
down, a couple pant sizes, 3 belt loops
doing
or belt
amazing.
notches, whatever,
Yeah,
all that sort of
you're the
stuff.
best field. Yeah,
And and it really wasn't that hard. In fact,
yeah.
now that I've looked back
It
at it, it's
actually
fun.
can't be hard, otherwise it's not gonna work.
Otherwise, it won't work. Right. Fair enough.
Yeah,
And in fact, I was telling my wife the other day, I was like, the crazy thing about this is I feel like I probably could have done a lot more. I probably could. Then I started to revert back to an old mindset of like,
yes.
well, now I really need to dig in this way or dig in that way or
Yeah,
dig
yeah,
in
yeah.
that way. And that's
Yes.
fine if I can do some of,
Yeah, yeah,
a few more days at the gym,
yeah,
add, a few more protein things or more vegetables here and there. But I feel like the changes that I would make now are going to be additions to the small victories I've already had,
yeah.
not failure points that I didn't do that week,
Yes, and we're actually having to constantly do, like, pull patients back, right? Like, I've taken patients off, like, going to Orange Theory, for instance, like, 3 days a week. Of course, if it works for them, like, I have a patient who works for, but a lot of times people, like, are forcing themselves and causing way more anxiety and stress in their lives, which is having all these other downstream effects, which is not, like, helpful in the bigger picture. And the other part of the thing I realized that we haven't talked about is that self-compassion is there because our food environment sucks, right? It's just such an important thing to understand, right? Because I think it's important to know that our bodies evolved when there weren't very many calories around. So they had to get really good at surviving on a very few calories. However, now we have created a food system in the last 70 years that the most addictive, ever present and energy dense calories known to humanity. You can press like 3 buttons on your phone and get a 3 course meal. And
right?
even when you're talking about like that's why we help brainstorm these things, but like when you're driving around it's actually hard because every single, like, you have 15 McDonald's from here to anywhere else, right? The whole food system is built not to help support our health, right?
Well, and I think that's such a
Yeah,
great point. Most of your musicians have addictive type personalities. We have to be addicted to playing guitar, addicted to singing, addicted to the crowds, addicted to so many things. Unfortunately, musicians also get addicted to things that aren't good for them. And food and alcohol are typically two
Yes.
things that get in there. And I think what you just mentioned is there's trigger foods that we
Yeah.
don't even realize, that
Exactly.
stockpiling certain ones with each other,
Yes.
it's chemistry at the end of the day,
Yeah.
that
Yeah, and attached
is
with
y-
dopamine.
yeah, exactly, which is creating and is taking an already difficult environment and making it even more difficult to
Yes.
succeed, just by some choices that we make, and the compound of those choices, as opposed to saying you can't ever have this, and
Yes.
and I think that that's a big difference for folks too to understand.
Yeah, I think that those are pretty related, right? Like in that stressful environment, we're gonna again turn to these things if they're there. So there's two parts of it. It's helping to optimize our food environment and making it easy, but then working on like finding other ways to cope with the stress, with the anxiety, with all of the other things you mentioned that are challenges for people in the industry and in every industry. And it's doing both those things at the same time.
Yeah, totally. And there's lots of different ways. Like I say, you make it different for every person, which is fantastic. And to be able to meet them where they're at, understand what those real goals are. um
Yeah.
and with mindful wellness, you also have fitness people as well, to if,
Yes.
if they have a struggle to, hey, well, I don't have access to any workout equipment, that can
Yes.
help them with that.
Yeah.
um there's everything from diet to medications to all whatever
Yeah.
the whole thing is that you put together for
I
them, the
say
ball of
nothing's off the
wax.
table.
What's that?
Nothing's off the table. We deal
Nothing's
with
off the table,
everything.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that's so good. And I think one thing that I just kind of want to wrap up with for us here too, for folks to understand, is that when you are able to have the mindful part of getting this wellness piece taken care of, at the same time that you're doing the wellness piece, not only is your
Yes.
body improving, but your mind's improving
Yeah.
from the body improving, but then also the victories. Like, we all do better if we had a good day, right? Like, if
Yes.
somebody went out and had a great show, they're gonna
Yeah.
feel great the next day and
Yeah, of
excited to
course.
do it again. So when the wellness has the victory, and it performs well or has a good day,
Yeah.
then the mind continues to get well. And then you
Yeah.
actually
It's a
start to
virtuous
like it.
cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that we change it from a vicious cycle to a
Yes.
victory cycle.
Yes.
And that's really what brings about the change that we're all kind
But
of looking
but
forward to.
also accepting that it's okay to fail, right? Like it's actually part of the process. I think that's also another key point in that it's unreasonable to think that you start something you're going to do it every single day for the rest of your life, right?
Oh,
It's more, yeah. And it's more
100%.
about doing it maybe 2 days, 3 days, not doing it the fourth day, fifth day, coming back the sixth day. And every time we come back over and over, right, that builds that muscle, that resilience. But it's understanding that this isn't about like perfection in any way, and we will fail, and often I always say this is about 80%, not 100. And what I mean by
Right.
that is 100 is actually bad, right? Because we need to eat and drink and do these other things with other people, because community and enjoyment and all of these things are healthy things, right? We just got to do it in the most optimal way, that's all.
No, and I think that's one of the things you told me, and that was a really hard mindset for
Yeah,
me,
that's tough.
because doing 80% of something in most fields, especially when you're a musician, like when
Yeah.
you're in the music business as a real thing, you're in the
Yeah.
1% of people that move to, in my case, Nashville, to actually get a chance to do what we're doing. So
Yeah.
80% of something just doesn't compute, right?
Yeah.
And so, and it's like, and then when that pizza comes on the bus, I'm not going to eat 80%. I'm going to eat 100% of whatever pizza's available on that
Yeah,
bus, right?
and maybe
So,
and sometimes that's the right answer too,
and
right? Like
sometimes it
sometimes
is, yeah.
yeah,
And so I think meeting somebody where they're at in that, and understand. And I want to share a failure that I had while working with you. Not really a failure so much as it was a backset. I had
yeah,
gotten poison ivy, and it had gotten under my
mhm,
eyes. Didn't know
yeah,
that's what it was.
yeah, yeah,
And I had to go. it basically just I was thrown off of our plan for a good week and a half, right? And because I was put on steroids and all of these other
Yes.
things because they really didn't know what it was at first. I
Yeah.
just had those poofy eyes. So I was like, gosh, this is going to be really hard to restart because I'd had some good success, with you up to that point, and then so that was my initial reaction because sometimes whenever you have setbacks, it's like, ah, crap, this is gonna be like starting all over again.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a week later, I was, when I could start back up, uh,
Yeah.
I, it was easy to jump back into the plan because I didn't have to worry about being 100% perfect. I could ease back
Yes.
into what I had already known that I had success in.
Yeah.
That to me checks the box for the first time for sustainable
Love that.
mindful wellness,
Yes.
where other diet and exercise
Yes.
programs really can't ever offer that. Because until
No.
this is in the right place
No.
for
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
it doesn't have an option to work. So I am looking forward to my continued results and
Yeah.
tweaking and making, fixes along the way, but also that I can enjoy life while I'm doing it. And that's actually an important part of it, that we're not
Yeah.
building up so much stress and cortisol trying
Yeah.
to be healthy that we actually
Yes.
negate being healthy. Would you say
Which
that's
makes it
correct?
impossible. I mean, the only constants of life is change, right? And things happen. Like we can't avoid it, right? We can't avoid suffering. You can't if you get poison ivy and you're having this inflammatory response and if you take steroids, that should become the focus for the week and a half, right? This shouldn't be the focus during that time. And then when you're ready, when you overcome it, just like in that example, you practice coming back, but that practice of coming back is its own process and you go slowly and you do that over and over. But again, it's just, this is just life. Life isn't you do something forever and you never have to think about it ever again. It's more this process over and over and practicing this process.
Absolutely. Well, awesome. I'm trying to. I feel like we could go on forever about this. This is such a
Yeah, this is
fascinating
really fun.
topic for
I'd love to
me
do this
because
again.
I want to share this with every musician that I've met because almost every musician, whether they're in shape or not, always has these issues
Yeah,
that it's a constant thing. So if you're going to have a life on the road, you
yeah.
might as well have a life that's full of mindful wellness. And I'm not just plugging your title there.
Yeah, I love
That
that.
actually
It's a
is
good
what you
tagline.
need to have,
Yeah,
and I think something that you should strive after. So forget I need to lose 20 pounds. Forget I
yeah,
need to have 8% body fat. Forget all those things. Get your mind and your wellness working together as your new team for your body. And those results will come along with that. And then you've got Dr. Gupta and his team ready
yes,
to just they don't go away either. That's the awesome part. It's not
yeah,
like here's your email, of what you're supposed to do, and we'll see you a year from now. It's
yeah.
there's opportunities to talk,
Yeah.
opportunities to
We have
tweak.
unlimited 30-minute appointments. We meet with the clinician monthly, but we have unlimited one-on-one health coaching appointments. It can be every week, more than once a week, as many as you need. We have one number to contact for anything. We have classes. I'm doing some mindfulness classes and things like that. So we really strive to be a very comprehensive approach to this issue.
Gotcha. And that's awesome. All right, let's leave everybody with one tip that they can do. What's one thing that they can do today to take with them from this before giving you a call that they can try out, and then after they've tried that for a couple days, or I'm just making this up, but they try it and then they're like, oh, you know what, that tip was actually cool. I need to either contact
It's
you
gonna
via
be
email
it's
or
gonna
give
be
you a call.
I think it's gonna be pretty on brand, but I think that the tip I like to leave everyone is the next time you find yourself having a lot of guilt, shame, judgment, criticism, just noticing it and sitting with it and just seeing if it's actually helping you or not, right? Just out of curiosity. And I think it's interesting. I went to talk to a therapist one time. It's like sometimes you have to like wind people up. Sometimes you have to unwind them. In this world, it's all about unwinding them, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone comes in saying, "I need to do all these things." Like they want to do all this, and often a lot of our jobs is like letting go of the pedal a little bit, right? And
Right.
I think it's more letting go than it is like going forward often.
I love that tip. I know that's one you gave to me right up
Yeah,
front too, especially as a pedal forward guy.
yeah,
Um, and I think what a great advocate in a business where everyone else is going to be doing this, including
yes,
yourself on your career within the
yeah,
music industry, to actually have that one person or team in this case
yes,
with you to go. Counselors would call it this their safe spot or safe zone
yeah,
or whatever,
yeah,
but this isn't just for your mental healing. This is for getting your body and mind in sync
yeah,
together and having that place where you know that actually if nothing else in your day goes good,
yeah.
we know working with you is going to be that place where we can find positivity and the
Thank you,
ability
Paul.
to unwind. And then probably one of the most important things I got out of what you said today too is allowing ourselves to do that, allowing
Yes,
ourselves to that
yeah,
opportunity to unwind, because if we don't, we're not going to
yeah,
get the results we want anyway.
yes,
So we might
yeah.
as well make ourselves a priority, within that.
It's necessary and mandatory in this modern world, and I
Yeah.
think we don't do it, and it's like causing a lot of things we see on the surface, and I think it's just such a necessary thing we have to do.
Wow, very cool. Well, thank you so much for being with us here
This is
today.
awesome, Paul.
And
Thank you.
we're gonna have this is only part one. I'm sure we've got a
Yeah,
part
we'll
20,
keep going.
30, all kinds of stuff, where we're gonna
Yeah,
make this be a thing, and
love it.
where we keep checking in, having other success stories from other people, not just me,
I
not
love
people.
it.
I don't need me all the time. And we'll just talk about how it's affected lives. And maybe we'll get some LA people that you've
Yeah.
treated out there to come on and
Oh, yeah,
join us too, and tell
100%.
us
Yeah,
how
we've got a lot of
it's
people.
working for them in their scope of business and stuff too. Well, thank
Yeah,
you, Dr. Vivek, so
yeah.
much for being out
So
there
I just
with
want to
us.
say we're
Yeah.
boarded in like 15 different states, including Tennessee.
Yes.
So we can see a lot of people all over the United States. And if you're from, it's on the website, all the states, but basically we'll treat anybody. If we get enough people from any state we're not boarded in, we'll just get boarded in. It's pretty easy.
I
So
love it.
just
Yeah.
reach out to
So
us.
all the Tennessee people, New York as well,
Yeah.
LA,
Yeah.
all the
I could
big
just,
cities. Yeah.
California, Oregon, Washington, Texas, Illinois, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and
Well, you've got
I'm probably leaving
basically
out.
every
Yeah,
major area covered that
yeah.
I can
Colorado,
think
North
of.
Carolina, we're getting right now. So
Oh, okay, great. Well, I'm glad that you have so many southern states because we love all that
yeah,
fried food. So we definitely
yeah,
need some help.
yeah, yeah.
We're not mindful or wellness oriented when it comes to the state fair, and we've got our fried Oreos sitting in front of
It's
us.
okay.
But
On the state fair, enjoying the fried Twinkie. Just we focus on the other days.
okay. All right. That'll work. That'll work. Well, again, if you guys want to get in touch with Dr. Gupta over at Mindful Wellness, it's contact at mindfulwellness.com, 310-220-4543.
Or you could
And
go on the website also, just
on the website as well,
mindfulwellness.com. Yeah,
mindfulwellness.com. Awesome.
yeah.
And we'll get back again with some more of this stuff coming on. Thanks again for being on today, and we'll talk to you soon.
This is great, Paul. Thank you.
All right. Take care. All right, guys, thanks once again for being on this edition of The Road to Real Estate. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys. We're going to bring Dr. Gupta back for some more success stories in all that we do. And you guys go out and have a great rest of
We
your
could
day.
try the coast of Carolina,